Happy holidays, guys. I notice I have some new subscribers. Thank you for coming, and those of you who are just watching, click that subscribe button. Okay, today I'm going to be showing you how I make my Christmas black cake. Now the first thing that we need to do is to make our burnt sugar caramel. All right, and this pot, if you look in my last year video where I burned my sugar, this is the heavy pot that I use. I'm not ashamed of it because this pot is the bomb. It does the job. So over medium heat I add my sugar, and you can see I have my wooden spoon. I use this wooden spoon all the time to burn my sugar. When doing this, you need a heavy pot. All right, so we're going to be using medium heat, and we want to burn this sugar until all the crystals has been dissolved. Keep stirring it, and if this is your first time doing burnt sugar, guys, you need to be extremely careful. Use a very large pot, and I'm going to be listing every details in the description box below. As you can see that the sugar starts to melt, and this is what it's going to look like. It's going to come out really good, guys. Just take your time. Just make sure you use a mitt on your hand because this can be extremely dangerous. And if you're not into burning sugar, you're not too sure about what you're doing, then use the food coloring. All right, the brown food coloring that is going to give your cake that dark brown color. I just like to burn my sugar from scratch. So I'm going to burn the sugar until it starts to foam and, bubble up. As you can see, it starts getting darker. And at this time, I want my sugar very dark. It's going to be a little bitter, not too bitter, just slight bitter. But what happens is that when you mix it with the wine and the rum and the sweetness from the butter and sugar, it's going to combine and come back well. It's not going to be bitter. So now that it starts to foam and froth up here, as you can see, you want it to continue burning, guys. It's gonna come to the top of the pot, so make sure you get a very big pot, just like this. Keep stirring. At this time, you want to lower the heat under the pot to the lowest. All right, you don't want this to boil over. You don't want to get burned. So I'm going to keep stirring over very low heat. And I'm going to do this until the sugar turns very dark, or at least to the color I think I want. If you're not too sure, again, use that food coloring, that brown coloring for your cake. So keep stirring, and as you can see, the sugar starts to get darker. Alright, guys, this is the fun part of it. Now that it is this dark, you can see what it looks like. I am going to start pouring my cherry brandy red wine into this mixture, a little at a time. And you need to use a very long wooden spoon, guys, because the heat is tremendous here. Stir in that cherry brandy and let it boil for another minute or two. Right, so once we're done, you want it to boil for another minute or two here over high heat. Turn that heat right back up to medium high and let it boil. Once it boils for a minute or two, remove it from the heat and let it sit aside and cool. And I like to do this burnt sugar 2 days before I start my black cake. Alright, it's all cool and nice. It's the next day, and this is what my burnt sugar caramel is like. So I'm gonna set this aside and start with my cake. Now today I'm making 3 pounds of black cake, but I'm going to give you the measurement for 1 pound of black cake. If you want to double up, then just double up your ingredients. So I'm gonna do them a pound at a time. And what you want to do if you're making your cake, use the measurements that I'm going to be giving you for 1 pound of cake, and you can double up if you want to do 2 pounds. All right, so check the description box for all details, all measurements, everything is going to be there. Now I normally use 1 cup of sugar, and I use 3/4 cup of sugar because the burnt sugar, when you add it to the black cake, brings back that sweetness. All right, then you want to use the whip attachment and just whip your butter and sugar. In the meantime, while that is being done, I have some eggs, peanut butter. I also have some shortening. This is my fruits that I did blend, guys. This fruit is from last year. All right, all preserved with spices and peels and everything in there. All the citrus is in there. I have baking powder, essence, cherry brandy, some Angostura bitters. I also have some brown rum, or dark rum as most of you would know it as, grated nutmeg, some salt, flour, and yeah, that's it. These are all my ingredients needed for my black cake. So we'll head right over to our mixer to see how our butter and sugar is coming. At this time, I'm so sorry that I did not even get to show you how I add my eggs, but I did use 10 eggs into a pound of cake, and I did break them separately. All right, don't break all of them one time, each after the other, into your pan. Just in case you have any bad ones, you don't want it to get mixed up. So once I'm done adding my eggs, you can see here now how the mixture is soft and nice. And you want to just scrape, making sure that no sugar and butter is being left at the side or at the bottom of the pan. Scrape it and mix again for another minute. Okay guys, so now that it's done, you can continue using the whisk attachment, or you can use the paddle attachment. I'm going to use the paddle attachment. And let me tell you, if you're not accustomed using peanut butter, if you're allergic to it, then you can leave that out. So I'm adding the peanut butter and the shortening in here. And I love to watch, guys, how the peanut butter and the shortening combine well with the butter and eggs and that sugar, and it gives you that thick consistency. Imagine there is no flour into my cake mixture as yet, and this is what it looks like. Now the peanut butter brings back that nutty flavor into the cake, and the shortening makes your cake becomes moist. Now I'm going to add my blended fruits, my salt and grated nutmeg, my cinnamon powder, some essence. I'm also going to be adding 2 tablespoons of Angostura bitters and just some cherry brandy right up into there. Now just mix it again, making sure that everything is well incorporated. At this time, the peanut butter brings out that flavor. Let me tell you, my kitchen is bursting, all right? Bare goodness in my kitchen. As you can see, the fruits there. I'm not done. I'm just showing you what it looked like. Now I'm going to add my sugar caramel. At this stage, you want to add as much caramel as you want, depends on the color of the cake you're looking for. And you can see how thick and rich my caramel is. Last year I did add a lot of spice, and that was because my fruit was not processed. So this year, no spice into it because I have so much spices into my preserved fruits. So this is the color I'm looking for, guys. Just whip it up, and at this time I'm going to pour it over into a bigger container so that it can be more manageable. So now this is 3 pounds of butter into my cake, and remember I said I'm going to give you the description for 1 pound of cake. Just double up on it. Alright, so once this is done, it is now time for me to grease my pans. I did use some butter to baste the pans. Now I'm going to add some flour into the pan. Shake it around and make sure I dust that pan well. This is what it should look like. Now I'm going to add some sifted flour and baking powder into my mixture. And you want to make sure that you mix this well until that flour has been well combined into the mixture. We don't need lumps here, guys. So sift it and stir. At this time, my oven is set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And once it's all mixed in, no white flour is showing, there are no lumps, I have a very good consistency. I'm going to pour them over into my baking pan and then into my 350 degrees oven. Let it bake for 25 minutes, then lower the oven and let it bake again for another hour at 250 degrees. Insert a toothpick. Once it comes out clean, you know it's done. Immediately after your cake is done and it is very hot, I mix some cherry brandy along with some rum and pour it right over the very hot cake. And I like to soak my cake for at least 2 days before serving. So I'm going to soak it today, soak it tomorrow, and the next day is Christmas. Alright? Leave them in the pan while you're soaking them. And in that way, your cake is going to be moist and nice. So it's Christmas Day, guys. And here my daughter is cutting the cake. And you can see how moist and nice this is. We just can't wait to go down on this cake, serve with some sorrel drink or some ginger beer, whatever you feel like using it with. And yes, that's Christmas, guys. Christmas for us over here. And texture is the key word when discussing black cake. The consistency really matters. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Enjoy.